So I enlisted and I went through the boot camp, and then I went to the school, happened to be at Walter Reed Army Medical Center. And I went through that class, and they asked me to stay there as an instructor because one of the instructors that they had when I was going through the class was leaving and getting out of the military.
Mhm.
And so I stayed there at Walter Reed the whole time I was in. It was a wonderful experience. I loved everything about it. I met my wife there
Oh, cool.
46 years ago. So
Was
that,
she also enlisted at the time?
no, she was an
No.
officer. She was
Okay.
an officer. Yeah, I was fraternizing with an officer.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of frowned upon even back then in the mid 70s.
So you always had guts.
Is that what it was?
Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Third Chances. My guest today is Dr. Dan Hartley. He is a retired doctor, podiatric physician, and surgeon with over 30 years of clinical research experience in the pharmaceutical industry. And that's quite special because, as you know, I work with something that kind of works in the process of not needing as many pharmaceutical products. Dr. Hartley also served 6 years as medic in U.S. Army, and his clinical research experience began back in 1979 at the National Institutes of Health, studying ACE inhibitors for hypertension. He completed his doctorate and surgical residency practice in Washington State for 6 years. But in 1992, he made a career change, decision to leave private practice and re-enter the field of clinical research. And he worked there as a consultant for most of the major pharmaceutical companies throughout the past 32 years. Dr. Hartley, welcome to my podcast. Such a joy to have you here.
Thank you, Vera. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. We have met through the company that I work with, ASEA, but you were not involved with, you were involved, then you were not involved, and then you re-entered just recently. And we are really excited to have you back because you are a wealth of knowledge. But I would really like to introduce you as a human being today, as a person who is passionate about research, about clinical studies, about what was your life career, basically. What made you decide when you were young to enter the doctor field?
Oh, golly. Well, I grew up in the Midwest in Illinois, in farm and coal country. I grew up in a small town of about 7,000 people, and
Mhm.
back then I was kind of interested in veterinary medicine, and I kind of always knew I wanted something to do with health care, but I didn't know exactly what.
Hmm.
Um,
Was there
uh,
any particular reason for that, do you think?
that I didn't know.
That you know that you were looking into health related
Oh,
professions?
no, not really. No one in my family had gone that route before.
Mhm.
But what happened was in college, um, well, the first year I went to school, I was on a football scholarship and did not enjoy that because everybody in college hits pretty hard, and that's
Mhm.
not fun.
Oh.
But and then I transferred schools for a couple of years, and I did all my undergraduate work for pre-med. I got to a point where that the question you asked, I still didn't know at that point when I was a junior in college, and
Mhm.
I happened to be eating at a fast food restaurant one day, and across the street was a an army recruiter, and
Oh.
yeah, and I being the naive person that I was, I didn't even know the difference between enlisted person and an officer. But I walked across the street and I told the guy I wanted to do something in healthcare. This was a recruiter.
Hmm.
And he opened this book up and showed me what you could do as a medic or veterinary tech. And I was interested in veterinary. And
Hmm.
so he went through this list of all the things that you could learn about as a tech there. And it had surgery, it had radiology, it had laboratory medicine, and everything you could think of for somebody that didn't know what they wanted to do. It kind of covered
Right.
the whole cookbook. So I enlisted and I went through the boot camp, and then I went to the school, happened to be at Walter Reed Army Medical Center, and I went through that class, and they asked me to stay there as an instructor because one of the instructors that they had when I was going through the class was leaving and getting out of the military.
Hmm.
And so I stayed there at Walter Reed the whole time I was in. It was a wonderful experience. I loved everything about it. I met my wife there
Oh, cool.
46 years ago. So
Was
that,
she also enlisted at the time?
no, she was an
No.
officer. She was
Okay.
an officer. Yeah, I was fraternizing with an officer.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of frowned upon even back then in the mid 70s.
So you always had guts.
That what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I stayed there. Debbie went to San Antonio, Texas at Fort Sam Houston to the burn center there, and that's where she worked. I won't bore you with all the details, but we broke up when she left, and we got back together, and yeah, 46 years and two children and four grandchildren later, here we are.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And as you mentioned, your wife Debbie, she's also a doctor, and not just any doctor, right?
Yeah, well, she's a nurse anesthetist. They have the same privileges as the MDs as the anesthesiologists do. But Debbie
Hmm.
was really good at what she did, and she actually became the chief of anesthesia at our hospital here. But
Yeah.
that's how good she was. She There were other MDs that worked with her and sometimes for her, but she was the chief of anesthesia. And when she left, we have our oldest daughter. Her name is Erin. She went to anesthesia school also, and she took Debbie's place when Debbie retired.
Oh wow, that's beautiful. So you started a new tradition in your family when you mentioned before that nobody in the family was really into, in the doctor
Oh,
field. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
kind of
that's cool.
married in.
I remember you were telling me that you eventually decided to purchase a private practice and that brought you to Washington.
Actually, we can go back a little bit even before that.
Okay.
After the military, I went and finished my pre-med degree and took the MCAT test. And during that time that I was out of the military, Debbie had been working with a few podiatrists at the hospital where she was,
I
and
see.
she introduced me to one back in Virginia who kind of took me under his wing, and I spent a lot of time with him, and that was kind of my introduction to that.
So
And
that help you decide the specialty
yeah,
at that point?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I was really interested in the sports medicine aspect of it at that time and the surgery. Uh,
Hmm.
got to the point where I was able to scrub in and go with him in the surgeries, and that because that was really neat. Yeah, and then I applied to all the schools and ended up accepting the one in Illinois in Chicago, which is where David Silverman and I happened to meet when we were
Hmm.
going to school together there. And we had a blast. We got to spend 3 years together before our last years are kind of rotating in and out of different hospitals. So we would see each other, but not as much as the first 3 years. And
Oh, I was hoping you will spill some secrets about David when he was young.
oh, I've got some stories to tell you. No, we had fun. One of the things I remember vividly was the day we started at sunup and we played golf till sundown. We walked every hole that we played all day. And
Hmm.
in the summer in Chicago, that it doesn't really get dark till about 9:30, 10 o'clock. So we played from 6:30 in the morning till night till it got dark, and
Oh, wow.
we played about 99 holes and walked every one of them. So. that was a fun day.
He's still loving his golf games today.
Oh,
That's
that's what I heard.
wow. Yeah, yeah, wow. So you were not really throwing parties and getting wasted somewhere. You left it all on a golf field. That's pretty cool.
Well, we had our parties. I'm not a real fan of alcohol. I don't know why I don't really like the taste of it that much
Mm,
unless it's really hot out, I'll have a beer, a cold beer. It has to be really cold,
yeah,
but no, never been. I wish I liked wine more and would drink more wine because I know it's healthy for you,
yeah.
but
Well, it's sometimes it's the way people are used to drink it, and especially in America, because I was in the wine business, as you know. Uh, In America, a lot of people drink wine just for the sake of it, just have a glass of wine. Wine is really meant to be with food. And when it's perfectly paired with what you're eating, it really elevates the experience of the meal. And there is such a thing as having wrong wine with something that will kill the flavor of the wine and the food. So I don't think it's such an important part of it's an important part of European life, definitely, but you're doing pretty well without it. But that was more talking about your youth when people use the college years to party, and you left it on a golf, which is much healthier obsession.
well, I can't say I didn't go to any parties, but
Yeah.
yeah, I probably was the person that drove people home more, the designated driver.
You're the good one. Yeah.
They all had more fun though.
Yeah. Well, so you finished the school. You working with this doctor that kind of took you under his wing, and then you made it. You have to make a decision. You're gonna go work somewhere, or you're gonna have your own practice. How did it look like then?
Um, well, I got accepted into a surgical residency and went through that, and then at that point was starting to look at where we wanted to live because
Mm.
my wife Debbie was an army brat and she had been all over. She went to 22 different schools when she
Oh
was,
gosh, yeah.
but uh, but we knew Illinois wasn't for us, and it just so happened that the dean of my school in Chicago went to school with one of his classmates was selling his practice in Washington State, and that I flew out. Well, I think we both flew out there together. It's so long ago. Um, and we liked the area and we ended up buying the practice. So that's where we went, and that's where we started. Our firstborn had was 6 months old when we went there.
Wow.
Uh, yeah,
That's a
and
lot of pressure to make it financially, and it's not a joke to start private practice. Or did you also get his customer base?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but it took a while. From day one, you have to wait until all the billing goes through, and the first few months are a little.
Yeah, yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about it because not everybody is a doctor, and we kind of look at doctors like they made it and they have these big incomes, but it's not always easy to run the business and be a doctor at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, it's not. It back then, it was just about the time when President Clinton's wife started getting interested in medicine. Things were happening in the States. We were starting to get HMOs and those kind of groups, and it got to the point where they were dictating how you would practice. It was not fun when that all happened. And getting back to your point about the finances of being in practice, a lot of overhead on
Yeah.
the first day of every month. My bills were right around $40,000 that I knew I had to pay that month just to open the door. So you need to see a lot of patients and do a lot of work in order to cover that and then make a living. So there was it was never really a big huge financial boom for me financially to be in practice. I Washington State is for whatever reason, it's not a good place for reimbursements to doctors. The
Hmm.
reimbursements are very regional. A lot of it's dependent on how the Medicare reimbursements are paid in those
Yeah.
regions. And Washington is not a good one. Just as to give you an example, if I did a fusion of three joints in an ankle, which is called a triple arthrodesis for really bad arthritis of some kind, what I got paid was less than half of what guys that I went to school with that were practicing in Minnesota would get paid, and it was I
How much time that surgery takes?
oh, those can take two to 3 hours to do
Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's just like, of course, you are not being charged for time, you're being charged
No, no.
for expertise. But it's eye-opening, when you hear somebody talking about this. And this is back in days when the situation is different today. And I know how often I see doctors sitting with the patients for 6 minutes and then spend 15 minutes on filling up the paperwork and everything, and they hate all of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's
Yeah.
really sad what it's become. But thank God there are those doctors that stay with it and stay in it. We
Yeah.
got to give them credit. I was very blessed because Debbie was, in her field. We were able to survive and bring up two daughters. And
Yeah.
when I decided to step away from the practice and go into clinical research, I had that backing too. So it was, yeah,
I
but
remember you saying that you were also in a town where you were the only podiatrist for 60,000 people, was it?
about 50, yeah.
Yeah. So
And
that's a lot though. That's
yeah,
you must have been busy. Yeah.
I was on call all the time. And yeah, it was long days. And that was the biggest reason why I left practice was
Yeah.
because my quality of life was not good with respect to my children. I didn't get to see them very much. They were asleep when I went to work and they were asleep when I got home, and that was just miserable.
That's
Um,
the ultimate golden cage, as we call it. Like you seem on a paper, it all looks like a success, but this is the other side of the coin that not many people see. That you may be making money, but you may not have chance to even spend it properly because you cannot travel, you can't have vacation, you can't do anything because it's the practice depends on you, correct?
yeah,
Or
yeah.
you the only doctor. So you decided to enough and go to research. Where did you go and how did it look like for you?
I had a friend who told me that there was a need on a particular drug study, and I had the interest of this. But working, you had mentioned earlier about I was working on ACE inhibitors back even before I went into uh, podiatry school. But
Mhm.
yeah, we were working on the very first ACE inhibitor was Capitan, which was known as Captopril to the general public. But there have been better ACE inhibitors that have come out with less side effects since then, like lisinopril. But yeah, I never lost interest in that, and it just so happened that this friend was working on a drug, and they needed another person to come help them, and I took the opportunity to do that, and ended up doing it for 32 years.
How did that work look like for us that have no idea?
Well, it was a little scary when she told me that I had to fly back and forth from Seattle to Miami every week for the year of the study.
Oh,
Because the reason I got out of practice was I wanted to see my family,
yeah.
and but then it was only 2 or 3 days a week where I had to do that. And when I was home, I was with the family, so it all worked out well. As far as the what I did on the project was, we it was a drug that was in clinical trials, so we were just auditing and monitoring the patients and their lab values and their X-rays and different parameters for what we were doing.
So 32 years, that's a long time. You must have loved it.
did. It was really interesting, and every year or two it would change to a different drug.
Mhm.
Uh, I was very fortunate to work on several drugs over those years. It's kind of funny. We sometimes we're watching TV and see all these commercials for different drugs, and oh, I worked on that one. Oh,
Yeah,
worked on that one. But
yeah.
yeah, it
If you
was.
if you lived in Florida, you would see many more of that because it's basically 90% of commercials are drugs here. Because all the senior citizens, I guess, it's either I've fallen and can't get up, or the drug commercials.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
funny. My folks retired down there at the Villages years.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know how far you are from that, but
about 4 hours. Yeah,
oh,
four.
you're way south then, huh?
Yes, yes. I'm in Delray Beach, where David comes for winters. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
is that how you met?
No, somebody else introduced me to it, Bob Hayek, and David happened to be our diamond in the team, and he was helping new people starting the business and everything. And we were on calls with him multiple times when he once said that I'm in Delray Beach, and I'm like, "You kidding? Are you my neighbor?" So
Ah,
eventually we got together for lunch, and Bob drove down. He's in St. Paul Lucie. I mean, that's part of charm of this business. It doesn't matter where you are; you can still become friends with people all over the planet, basically, if they are on the same page with you. And Dave, I was blessed with having David on my side quite often and available for people if I had somebody that needed to talk to somebody that is more scientifically oriented or doctor. And so he is still big help, definitely in the team. Yeah. But tell me about, so something happened years back. Did you keep in touch with David through all those years? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, not. I mean, maybe once or twice a year we would call each other.
So it
Uh,
wasn't like out of the blue. You heard from him after a long time. Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no, no. He did call me about ASEA. Uh,
Yeah.
and at the time, it was just the liquid. That's all that they had back
It
then.
was back in 2011.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
so just about when the company really started and did the research. Let me ask you, because you were in the pharmaceutical research all these years, did you come across this redox signaling molecules concept then as a researcher?
Yeah. Yes. We knew about the molecules. Several labs around the country, and actually a couple international too,
Mhm.
were looking at the molecules. And it just so happened that one of the companies that I worked for that I told you about during the 32 years, if you've ever seen the Genesis video for ASEA, they were the corporate people. Oh, there's your kitty.
There's Sissy. Yeah, she needs to be in a picture.
Oh boy. Yeah, the gentlemen on that corporate jet were my bosses. I had left Bar a little bit before they flew up to Salt Lake City, but that they were from that pharmaceutical company.
You
And
know, you mentioned that video. I have been working with ASEA for several months before I first saw that video. And I would recommend everybody who is a little bit skeptical or cynical about anything new coming to the market that they never heard of. I would encourage you to go and watch that video because I remember sitting in front of the screen crying. It was so moving with seeing Verdis Norton talking about it and how what it meant. And I actually once encountered somebody on a call who was so cynical that he accused us of making it up. That, yeah, who knows if that's true, that pharmaceutical company wanted to buy this. And it just, you don't even want to deal with people like that, because if you think we are so cynical that we make something like that up, then this interview is very important for that kind of people to know that it in fact happened and you were not part of it, but you were directly working with those people who were interested in the technology. So,
Yeah.
like you said, you were already out of the company at that time?
Yeah, for a little while, and then they flew up there, but still had friends that worked there, and we knew back then that some of the labs around the country were working with the molecules because of what they did for certain. I can tell you, and this will be compliant because this is what was happening.
Yeah.
Uh, Different labs were looking at the redox signaling molecules for diabetic uh, concerns, for chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder, COPD. Uh, Irritable bowel syndrome was another one.
Mhm.
Multiple sclerosis and cystic fibrosis. Those are the five that I remember hearing about in my travels and stuff. And
At that time, because they were researching it, and when you look at what is it,
PubMed, PubMed,
PubMed.gov, I can remember.
yeah,
Uh, that's basically like a library for doctors and scientists. There
yeah,
are studies coming every day on redox signaling molecules and its relation to different diseases in the body.
yeah,
We are not claiming anything here. We are not claiming that what ASEA has is diagnosing, curing, or healing anything or preventing anything, but there is proven scientific link to what happens in the body when there is abundance of these molecules in the body. So
yeah,
just to be very clear, we are not claiming that our technology cure, heal, diagnose, or prevent anything. It just empowers the body to be able to do more what body is naturally designed to do, and that's to heal, correct? When you're developing drugs, they all come with side effects, which is the scary part because no matter what we take, it has some side effects in it, and it can build up in the system and create new problems. So it's kind of trickery road. I always wanted to be on the side of not needing drugs when possible. Of course, there are life-saving drugs that thank God we have them. But I think it became norm that people just reach for pill for everything immediately, without considering the side effects that could be. And it's really managing symptoms. It's putting a band-aid over problems. So when David approached you about redox and told you that ASEA was able to stabilize those fleeting molecules and develop it, what was your first thought?
Well, I was very skeptical because nobody could do that.
Yeah.
Everybody had tried for years to do just that, is stabilize the molecules where you could consume them, and they would be what we call bioactive when they get at the cellular DNA level.
Yeah.
The body could actually use them, and that was I was skeptical at first, and then I he got me some of the product, and it just so happened I started drinking it, and within a couple of weeks I noticed there were a few skin changes with me
Hmm.
personally. Um, I had some skin tags that just kind of went away,
Yeah.
and uh, but the thing that really got me was I was in a hotel room getting ready to go to work at another drug study in California. I don't remember the city I was in, but anyway, I think it was Burbank. But I had burned my index finger on an oven rack while I was cooking a pizza over the Saturday before I went on my trip. And I
Mm.
had a little, about the size of two pencil erasers. I had a burn there. And when I got to the hotel that Monday morning, I decided that I would put some of the ASEA in a glass. They have those hotel glasses, and I put my finger in there, and I noticed within a few minutes there were significant changes to that injury,
Hmm.
and I couldn't believe it, and that's when it hit me that they they actually they actually stabilize these molecules. And once that happened, I called David right away and I said, I got all excited and said, oh my goodness, here we go. And I had to fly out. I had to fly out to Salt Lake City to meet with Dr. Gary Samuelson and Vertus Norton. At the time, they were in the office the day I came, and I didn't get to meet Tyler that day,
Mhm.
but subsequently got that privilege. And I spent a lot of time that day with Dr. Samuelson, and we were talking about everything to do with, well, my history and then the molecules. That was the main.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was all proprietary information. He wasn't going to tell me all the secrets, but
Of course. Yeah.
yeah, but it was just a wonderful experience to meet them and to see some of the research that was there at the time. It's funny you mentioned PubMed earlier, and when I looked up redox signaling molecules back in 2011,
Hmm.
the number of papers about redox signaling molecules back then was about 20,000, maybe
Yeah.
20,000 articles. Now there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a growing field all around the world. And the research that's been done since I stepped away from ASEA for those 6+ years, it's just amazing what's come out. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's very satisfying for us because at the beginning there was see, I had a hard time to find laboratory or university that knew how to study it and how to do the research on the product because they didn't even understand what it is. And today we are at the point when the universities are reaching to us. That's a really satisfying position to be in when they finally realize, okay, yes, we understand what you have, and now we understand how to study it. And it's possibly really fantastic position to be in because everything innovative starts with ridiculing and laughing. David always talks about discovery of penicillin, how everybody was skeptical, like, what am I gonna do with bread mold? It's like, how is gonna save somebody's leg with bread mold? And it took several years before it was accepted as a mainstream knowledge. And I think
Yeah.
it was because of the war when they had nothing else to work with. They was like, well, what the heck, let's just try this. And suddenly they saw the effects on the body. And I think we went through the same ridicule phase as a disruptive technology before it was accepted that it's actually, in the position that it is and in a box of its own, I believe, because if you as a researcher, you can compare it scientifically. How does it compare to vitamins, minerals, everything that is on the market that we work with that comes as the external trigger to try to trigger something in the body, as
Mhm.
opposed to redox signaling molecules that are already in us? Would you be able to make a simple comparison?
I think the simplest thing I can tell you is all of those other things that you mentioned, uh, as we supplement them in the body, the redox signaling molecules that are already in our cells are what regulate all of those things that you're talking about, whether it's an antioxidant or a vitamin. Some of the vitamins are actually antioxidants, but those things don't work without redox signaling molecules.
Yeah.
The redox signaling molecules regulate and modulate everything that happens at the cellular level, and not just the cellular level, but in between the cells in the cytoplasm. There's space and fluid between the cells. There are mitochondria in the extracellular spaces too, and they're signaling all these things and modulating them and regulating them to happen. And if
Mhm.
we didn't have these, we would not be here.
Yeah. It's so significant, and it seems so simple and unimportant when you look at it. I can imagine somebody who suffer a lot of issues over the years, and uh, looking at something that is made from two humble ingredients, salt and water. And we are trained to look at the labels and trying to expect the miracle ingredients that is there, but that's the whole point, that it's not based on nutrition at all.
Yeah.
It's biochemistry of the body, right?
Yeah, it's a very elegant thing. It's funny. My wife and I sometimes, well, we play music at church, and we were asked to come to another church a few weeks ago because their band couldn't be there that day, and we went and played there. And the theme that the pastor had that Sunday was all about salt.
Hmm.
That was the theme. And I'm sitting there just having come back into getting active again with the SIA. And here's this pastor talking about salt during his sermon and how the Jewish people used it for very beneficial things and storing food and
Yeah.
cake, all kind. But they also used it as a weapon. They would use it to destroy the fields of their enemies. I'm sitting there, and the pastor saying, how important salt was to those people, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, if you only knew, what it's doing at the cellular level. But yeah, it's salt and water, and it's breaking up the bonds of those two compounds, and then rearranging the molecules into all the different variations. It's very simple yet very complex, and it's just when you look at it, it's just amazing when you look at the whole picture. And I'm not going to apologize for believing in a creator. He
I
made those.
think
He did
I
that.
think this is the closest we can get to, if you believe, and if you are a religious person, and you have God in your life, like God created us, because all the communication in the body happened, all the organs, tissues grew up on its own. You didn't direct it, nobody directed it. It happened. It's the
Yeah.
miracle of life. And so for me, I look at it as the most natural way to assist your body with these molecules, because we are losing them as we age. So by simply replenishing it, we are not interrupting any processes in the body and trying to trigger body to do something. We are just replenishing what originally was there when the body was functioning fully and optimally. So this is very connected to it. I look at it the same way. This is the best natural way I can do to assist my body to be able to heal better and to be in good shape. And I happened to have somebody on call last week who said a very smart thing, because we were talking about why would you want to take it, and I don't need it. I feel good. I'm on 5 medications, but I'm okay. And my colleague from Prague said wonderful sentence. He said, well, I am in my 70s. Being on ASEA for several months, I went back to physical work that I never believed I could once again do, because I feel so much better. I have issue with my back all the time. I was just cutting trees in the forest and pulling woods with my sons, and I couldn't believe it. And I just want to die with my boots on, because we all talk about longevity and we want to live long, of course, but none of us want to live long to be dependent on somebody. And I think that's the one way to look at it too. I was one of those people when I first started. Because I didn't understand what this was, I was like, I'm already eating healthy, I'm already taking supplements that are benefiting me to my best knowledge, because it used to be my business. I was a holistic nutritionist working with specific diets to boost immune systems and stuff like that. So I knew a lot about this part of the industry. I knew all about the supplements and what was on the market. And most of the things that I looked at were just a different form to get vitamins into your body. And they are important. They are building blocks. They are important for us. But but the redox signaling molecules is not in the same boat. This is, like you said perfectly, elegantly, this redox signaling molecules makes everything else work
Exactly.
optimally. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And it's not just in humans, it's also in plants and animals.
yeah.
Um, it's it's just life.
So you started sharing ASEA back in 2011 when you met the scientists and everybody, but then you step away. Why, if I may ask? It's personal.
Yeah. Well, I was still working in the pharmaceutical industry, and we were
Okay.
doing some very important things back then with HIV, AIDS, and a couple of other cancer studies. And
Hmm.
yeah, and um, I couldn't walk away from that because of my involvement and actually uh, financially, I
Yeah,
couldn't walk away from it then because Debbie was raising the kids and um, she uh, she was able to keep working in her field, but in order to keep things going, I just had to keep doing what I was doing.
yeah,
And when you're working 60 hours a week and then you're doing trying to do calls at
yeah.
before and night and weekend, it just got hard. And I
Then
know,
you go back to not having life for your family. Yeah,
yeah,
probably
yeah.
not the right time. Yeah.
I never, when this all happened, I never really got to explain it to people like Debbie Wetzler and David, but
Mm.
they, they understood at the time, but then I came back, and um, it,
I heard the story. Why? But would you care to share it with our listeners?
one thing I didn't mention too about those early days was I tried to convince people back then, and as a scientific person trying to convince people and going through what I knew and overwhelming them with things they didn't want to know or need to know. You don't you
Yeah,
don't even
yeah,
need. I was finding myself getting tired of trying to convince people,
yeah.
and I know that sounds terrible, maybe selfish, but um,
No, it's perfectly natural because you were at your work, you were surrounded with people who gets it. Like they are at your level and they understand. And now you try to share something that you from your heart, it can help someone. And
yeah,
and you cannot even get it across because it was so unknown and so different than everything else. I can totally relate. Yeah.
yeah.
And it's heartbreaking sometimes because people walk away from something they don't even know half of what it can do for them. Yeah.
Yeah, and won't take the time to learn. Um,
Yeah.
and I found too that some of the closest people to me were the hardest. You know, it's hard to be an expert in your own family
Mm.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Brothers-in-law and sisters-in-law.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, so that was why I stepped away. But the reason I came back was because during all those years that I was away, I was taking it, and some people in town here were taking it, and
Hmm.
they saw benefits from it. But uh, every week I got a check from ASEA for the things that I had done the first year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
All the work that was done back then, I was still getting a check every week.
Even though you were not actively involved in the
Right.
business.
Yeah, residual income.
Yes.
And I noticed it's been almost 3 months ago now. I noticed that my check that particular week was about 3 times bigger than it normally was. And I looked at that and I called Debbie Wetzler and I said, "Hey, Deb, what's going on here? My check's bigger." And she said, "Well, we have a new product." And I said, "Okay, tell me what it is." And she proceeded to tell me about a sea of gold. And as she was talking about it, she mentioned the NRF2 uh, gene transcription pathway. And that really got me excited because we were looking at that on other drug studies.
Hmm.
And uh, the ASEA Gold product enables the EGR. We won't go into that, but
So you were saying that Debbie mentioned the NRF2, and I just brought up the slide that shows what the research was done with our product, with the University of Bath and I believe the University of Sydney together. And if you want to talk about it, this is very visual for people to understand if you are watching the video of this podcast. So can you tell us what this means, these graphs?
yes, yeah. These two graphs show, the first one on the left is the genetic pathway of what the NRF2 is and why it's important and how it signals the body's production of the master antioxidant, which is glutathione.
Hmm.
And what it shows is that it's a very significant increase of 160% in in that one on the left of the glutathione production. And
Why is
then,
the glutathione so important in the body?
well, it's the master antioxidant, and it's responsible for so many things with regards to inflammation, the inflammatory response,
Mhm.
and also cell regeneration. Some of the things that the glutathione will govern and lead, allow to happen.
Yeah.
So that the product, the Cia Gold, it's very good for minimizing discomfort. But uh, not only that, not only discomfort, but it also helps in regeneration of tissue and the tissues dying off and the cells being removed through apoptosis, which is a little just a wraparound of the dead cell and it gets it out of there.
Yeah.
And but the graph on the right is really unique because it shows what happens when the NRF2 enters the nucleus and uh, when the glutathione is produced, it shows that there's up to a 70% increase in healthy cells. That's amazing in and of itself that would increase that much in healthy cells. But in cells that are compromised, there's a 280% increase, and the lab values showed this, and they were able to repeat this 9 times in different retrials,
Because they
and
couldn't believe it themselves.
that's right. Yeah, that's
So how would you can you carefully describe what it means compromised cell when you're doing research and you introduce something that cell doesn't act normally as a healthy cell?
yeah. Well, cells have a life cycle, and with given enough time, our bodies replace every cell in our bodies are replaced within a certain amount of days, and
Yes.
that's why we really recommend when people start to drink a Cia that they stay on it for 3 or 4 months because they may not notice anything until months down the line. Because of cell turnover. But the cells dying, there's a lot of different reasons for that. Anything from exposure to outside influences like the sun or radiation or
Toxins. No.
yes, all kinds of things. Uh, Also, just as cells get older, they die.
Yeah. The lifespan. Yeah.
Usually it means that the organelles inside the cell are dying
Hmm.
uh, for whatever reasons, outside influences or just time. Um,
I don't try to pretend that I'm scientist, but I know you have healthy cells and then you can put a blockers on a cell that so that cell now acts as a problematic cell that needs to be either repaired, replaced, or get rid of in apoptosis. So somehow they recreated this situation when the cell is compromised. And
yeah,
that was the fascinating part of that study for me, that it increased the production of your natural glutathione even that much higher and brought it almost to the levels of back to healthy cell, which
yeah,
is stunning. And that's when somebody's looking at this as, why would I take it? Is it important? I think it's pretty damn important if our body can be in position that is in optimal situation to be able to fight with whatever comes our way.
It's really amazing what that particular product does, but all of these products, whether it's the skincare, I really had no clue the high quality and high level of the Via line, the
Yeah,
vitamins.
yeah,
And I watched a video with Dr. Maureen Hayes and I think it was maybe Dr. Hoffman together. They did something on the Via. I
yeah.
think it
Dr.
was.
Hoffman is particularly brilliant because she's naturopath and she had worked with all kinds of supplements her whole life. Your body will absorb them and actually use them because they are still important. The ASEA does not provide nutrition, to your body. We still need those building blocks. But when I look at it, it's like you have all the materials from your food, from the supplements you take, but then you need the labor to make sure that material is being used properly and actually beneficial to our health.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, what did we not cover, Dan? I'm trying to see what, when you came back, you are now 3 months in, back actively participating, even though we drag you out from your retirement. You could have just finally enjoyed life. What
Well,
what
I
drives you to do that?
I had told my wife before I saw that check and before I called Debbie, I had told my wife that I was playing a lot of golf, and I said, I can only a guy can only play golf so much, and then it just I really I can't believe I'm saying this because people here in town know that golf has been very important in my life in retirement, and so much so that the guys at the store where we buy our golf equipment, they all know my name, and when I walk in, they they call me by my first name. It's pretty sad, but yeah,
No, it's not. You finally have time to do that and enjoy it.
well, yeah, that's true, but I just knew that there was more out. I wasn't. I felt like I needed to do something more important than golf is a very selfish game. It takes if you go out and play golf, it takes 5 or 6 hours, a lot of your time away from your family and away from. I found that I wasn't walking my dogs like I should be, and it's just.
But it's also healthy. It's you are outside, you're doing a physical activity. It is not so selfish. You're taking time for yourself to keep active. I don't agree with that selfish
Well,
analogy.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
know what you're saying though. Yeah.
yeah. But it got to the point where I'm gonna be 70 here pretty soon, and you can't play golf as well when you're 70 or 69 as you did when you were 30 or 35. And I have these high expectations of golf and what I expect myself to be able to do, and it just as you get older, it's just not quite the same. And so, anyway,
But the fulfillment I totally get because there is a motivational speaker on somebody who I admire deeply, Brandon Bouchard. He speaks all over the world. He has millions and millions of people that he teaches all kinds of mastery in life. And he speaks very simply of this concept that you probably a little bit touched on unintentionally. At the end of my life, I want to look back and see if I lived, if I loved, and if I made a difference. And that's probably what was missing because suddenly when you saw what the Redox Gold can do for people, and you want to jump back in and be part of this because it's to use your comparison with golf, it's not selfish to want to help people and show them that there may be alternative solution to their lifelong problems if they only looked at it.
yeah, what really is selfish is for me to have been blessed to have all these exposures to the molecules and my background And for me to not share it,
Yeah.
that's really selfish. So,
Isn't it interesting? We all get to point when we feel it's an obligation.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mentioned this on another interview earlier in the week. When I first got involved with ASEA, Alan Noble called me one Saturday morning, and we talked for over a half an hour. And one of the last things Alan said on that call was that the opportunity is driven by the obligation.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was talking about the opportunity of finances, although that's a part of it, but I think he's talking about the opportunity to share.
Knowing this, knowing its potential and not share it with people would be selfish.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
absolutely.
Dan, thank you so much. This was such a joy to get to know you better and get to better understanding what's going on in your head and what your philosophy of life is. Is there anything that you would like to, something that we didn't say or you wish you said? Any life wisdom that you can share?
Well, one thing that we didn't talk about, and this just happened to me yesterday,
Mhm.
was on a call with a young lady from the Phoenix area she happens to be the daughter of one of my best friends who's a doctor over in Italy. But she had brought another lady and introduced me to another lady. We were doing a Zoom call, and I started talking about detox with her
Mhm.
because she's going to get on the product. And she wanted to know, is there anything that I need to be careful of or watch it? So we started talking about detox, and I telling her, going through all these things about detox, and then I made the statement, but Cece, if you have detox, that's a really good sign that this is going to work for you.
Yeah.
And she gets all excited and she says, I want detox. I want detox.
Yeah.
So that just happened yesterday, but got to be careful.
It's a one thing that you want to clarify a little bit because when people first start on the redox protocol, they may have reaction. The body reacts to it, and it's a detox. And some people kind of freak out about it and think it's some kind of I'm allergic to it, or it's I'm feeling worse or something like that. Can you touch on a little bit what can be it happens to about 10-15% of people
Yeah.
when they first started, and their body responds so well that it's actually starting detoxing too quickly. It could be prevented with drinking more water, so you flush it out of your body. But what can happen? Can you touch on that?
Yeah, well, basically, what I tell people is I give them the correlation to when you get a massage, and especially a deep massage. The massage person will tell you when we're done, make sure you drink a lot of water because we want to wash out those toxins that we're affecting by the massage. Well, when you take this product at the cellular level, that happens also. There's some detox of some of the cells that are not quite as healthy or whatever, and we we don't want them to get into the bloodstream and affect you to the point where you start having just malaise or body aches or headaches, maybe.
Or skin rash or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just tell people to drink a lot of water because and we watch, if they have real health challenges, I'll actually recommend that they start a little slower. But yeah,
Because the body will respond quickly,
yeah,
yeah. But
yeah,
it's however ridiculous it may sound to somebody who people are taking detox products to detox on purpose. When I drink ASEA, and I'm drinking it now for close to 3.5, more than 3.5 years, it's I'm gently detoxing every day, which
yeah,
is what I want. People do all kinds of juicing and extreme dietary days for like few days to detox really strongly, which is not so great, I think, and you don't feel so great. So this is something that one of the benefits of being on ASEA for as many years for me is that I know that I am gently detoxing all the time. And funny, we touched on alcohol before. I actually noticed if I overdid it a little bit with the wine sometimes, I don't have the usual hangover next day. I don't have headaches. I don't have the reaction of the body when it needs to get rid of that, what is not so good about alcohol out of my body. It just goes out really quickly because it's my body responds well. My body responds as if I was younger, I think.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So any lasting wisdom that you want to leave with?
No, for people that are on the fence about whether they want to try this or not, you have nothing to lose because there's a money back guarantee. And whether you want to just take it for yourself as a customer or whether you think you might, if you like the results you see and want to share it with other people, then just become an associate. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's different
And
for everybody, but
if anybody has questions, and I'm sure you do if you hear about this for the first time, feel free to reach out to Dr. Hartley or myself. I'll post all the links to the show notes and ask your questions. We are here to really help people understand this. And you said you have nothing to lose. Also, you cannot be allergic to this. It doesn't interfere with medication. It is very unique alternative way to improve your health as naturally as possible. It's actually native to your body as opposed to everything else that is on the market.
yeah. Well, the last thing I would say is if you're concerned or if your health issues are related to sugar levels or blood pressure, I would just recommend that you check your sugar levels, check your blood pressure as you start this and work with your doctor.
Definitely.
Your doctor may or may not know about redox signaling molecules, but it might be a good way for you to introduce him or her to the redox signaling
And
molecules.
most importantly, if you start with one of us, we are educated now to help you, guide you through the process, to make sure that you're taking it properly. You are not on your own. We have a lot of science. We have doctor calls every week that you can attend and ask questions directly. Doctors that work with this for years. And so it's not something that you buy and you are on your own to figure it out. So please don't worry. And we are here for you. Dr. Dan Hartley, as one of the most scientific people that I had a pleasure to get to know. I'm so grateful for your time and for you. You've been very generous with me, and thank you so much.
Oh,
And
it's been,
like I said, let me know, let Dr. Hartley know if you have any questions. We will be happy to answer it. We are not in a business of selling something. We are really sharing this discovery and this breakthrough science so people can make educated decision if it's the right thing for them or not. And that's all we do. And I hope that my listeners appreciate that we bring this knowledge to them. And the more you know, the better educated decision you can make. I
yeah.
always wanted to know facts. So
Well, thank you, Vera, and I look forward to actually meeting you and giving you a hug one of these days. So,
yes, absolutely. I think it will be sooner or later.
yeah,
Definitely this year. Definitely this year. Thank you so much, Dan, and have a
all
wonderful
right.
rest of the day. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.